Hi, Rose. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you, Paul.
Likewise, it is an honor and a pleasure to welcome Rose Rosen, head of the Tampa, Florida-based Casting by Rose Rosen. You've been at it, what, over 25 years now?
That sounds good.
Okay. Wasn't sure about the timing, but I'm glad I got that kind of right. And you're also host of your own podcast, as you can see if you're watching us on YouTube, Casting Confidential. She gathers casting directors around the fire. It is so informative. It is so insightful. It is so entertaining. Actors, do yourself a favor and listen to Casting Confidential. You're welcome.
Thank you.
That's all I'm going to say.
No, it's great. And you can get it anywhere you want. It's all
beautiful.
over the place.
With that being said, getting to our industry, God, we're swimming in change, aren't we? It just seems that the footing, the foundation of it is just built on quicksand these days. It's just taking two examples from recent headlines. There was the suggestion of tariffs by our current administration. And then recently the unions and the guilds wrote a letter back saying, hey, how about a federal tax incentive? And then on the other side of that coin, you have the creators and you have talent recently merging. I read there was a story just recently in early May where a talent agency and a production company merged, where they're creating creator-first pipelines that are all in-house. So it seems like it's harkening back to the days of the old studio system. So it seems like studios are shrinking, the content creators are scaling. When you take in, there's a lot of meat on this bone that we can chew on, but when you take in studio politics, ways of doing business, the continual emerging of creators and how they're scaling their content, is it still a good time to be working in the entertainment industry?
Is it a good time to be working? Absolutely. You can make your own content. The world is your oyster. Is it a good time to be making money? That's another question.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, I think get out there, do your own stuff. But if you don't have a way to make money, you're silly. That is outside of the industry or that feels a little bit more grounded. The days of knowing that your paycheck is coming, knowing that your client's coming back, knowing that, you'll book this many things because of the past 10 years, the past 20 years you have done all this are over. And I hate to be negative Nelly, but I don't think they're coming back. I don't think that type of work is coming back. I think, like you said, we are moving and changing as we have many, many, many times before. Let's review. I started casting on VHS and beta tapes, right? A couple of years ago. And then I had to figure out how to burn CD, DVDs. And then there was something about an FTP site. And then finally the casting software came. And, so that's been a blessing. But then now, just as a side note, everybody's hating on the casting software. Everybody's hating on the casting directors. And what I want your listeners to think about is don't hate on us and don't even hate on the system or the studios, because the bigger point is how can we independently move forward with our creativity and our voice and also make money. And that is a journey that each individual creator needs to figure out on their own. Look at me. I am a casting director for 2 million years. And when COVID came, here I am on the internet. And it seemed necessary. Was it a monetary thing? Certainly not. Maybe one day it will be. It's getting there. But was it a thing that my creativity spoke to me and said, I need to get out there and be the voice of casting because our voice is being crushed? Yeah. And aren't I just so dramatic? But it's true. It's true. I did a little YouTube series with Kim Swanson over COVID, it was just born of necessity. It was born of, well, we got to tell these actors some things. We're sitting at home. We like to work. We like to talk. Let's do it. And, and they're still on YouTube. They hold up. So yeah. And now the podcast, I mean, around the world, it's interesting. And it's certainly a part of my career that I had no ambition towards or interest in until 2020.
So along the lines of what you just said, it just seems that we're entering a point, or we're going to a point where we're just entertaining ourselves. Just regular people on the internet, people that are going viral, influencers, TikTokers, what have you. And we're not relying so much on legacy media to do that job. Would you agree with that?
So wasn't that the goal of the media industry? Wasn't when the shows came on and all we had was television, not cable. I know I'm talking a few years ago, but wasn't that the goal, was to entertain people? And there was this communal experience, right? Because everybody had 3 channels to watch, plus maybe 1 extra if you were fancy. And then the next day you could say, did you see this show? Did you see Johnny Carson, which really dates me? Or did you see David Letterman, or did, and that kind of thing. And you could talk about it. Now it's like, well, did you see that thing streaming over there? I don't know. Where is it streaming? I don't know. Do you get that? Oh, no, I don't get that streamer. So it's very complicated. But when a creator posts something out on the internet, now it's a communal experience again. Now everybody's seeing it essentially in real time. They can go back and see it. But if you're on your Instagram feed, I can easily talk about something that I've seen. You, in fact, talked about 2 Instagram stories before we started this discussion. Mm-hmm. And I saw those in my Instagram feed, and we were having a communal moment that is not dissimilar to the NBC, ABC, CBS that we knew in years past.
So it's like a different type of communal moment. It's just not necessarily live in the traditional sense.
Are you the same as you were 10 years ago?
Absolutely not.
And that's
Thank God
the whole
for that.
point, right? We don't want to be the same. We probably don't want our viewing experience to be the same. We probably don't want our couch to be the same, right? But why, as a community of humans, do we fight against it so? Everybody doesn't like change, but I think we really got it. And as creators, as your audience, you have to really tell them, be open to change. Every time you get a new role, if you're an actor, you're changing your skin, you're doing the whole thing, right? So it's just, be good with it.
Yeah. So I guess it comes down to continuing to be creative, which we all have the power to do now. Yeah. And the challenge going forward is, how do we monetize that? How do we pay our bills with that if we can?
This is the big question, because I believe if you're doing work, you should be in business, you should be making money. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think some people think, oh, it's an art, that money's a dirty word, and people can be unprofessional and not do their work and not do their paperwork. And, I asked many of my cohorts, well, did you get that in writing? Oh, no, we did that on a handshake. I'm like, well, I don't know a lot of businesses that do that. So, I think in creativity and in business, it's good to tighten it up for actors, for casting directors, for producers, for just for the accountant. He's not going to start working for you until you sign a little paper. Let's do that too, right?
Sure. We creatives have to engage the left side of our brain as well as our right.
It's just so much. It's so much. Yeah.
You have to have balance for sure.
No, you do.
No, I want to continue as we go on with the, I want to talk about technology, obviously, and the threat or the assistance that it'll give us. But I want to go back essentially to your origin in a bit. You're a St. Louis native. How did you end up in Florida?
Mail order bride.
What? Get out of here.
Many years ago, actually, my then future husband and I lived in 2 separate cities. And, I was in St. Louis and I was doing really well professionally and personally and so forth. But he moved here to start that, he got a transfer here from Atlanta, and he comes from Memphis. So, but he was here in Tampa, and, he proposed, and I said I'd come.
Okay.
And it's hot. It's still hot.
It's always been hot, right?
It's always been hot, and it gets a little hotter. But yeah, and I've just kind of worked. I do mostly, national, New York, Los Angeles clients for commercials, and movies would come here a lot back then. So it's been good to me. And once I figured out the internet and all the things like that, I was doing self-tapes 12, 15 years ago.
Early adopter. I love it.
I know. Yeah. You just don't even think they existed, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we did them occasionally, and we didn't have setups. We didn't have lights. We just went, okay.
And you probably didn't have a camera in your pocket.
No.
But somehow I would figure out how to get these actors to do a self-tape and be a part of the situation. So it all worked out.
That being said, do you miss being in the room?
I don't. Because I know
I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, no. I know actors do. But here's the thing. I am working for my client, and I love actors, right? So I have always believed that self-tapes, first of all, helps the environment, because, people used to travel 10 hours to see me for 5 minutes. And I would get so upset, and then leave me with 10 pieces of paper, their headshot, their resume. It's just like, what am I doing? Well, I don't even care that it's a lot of stuff. I care that how many trees, how much fossil fuel, to what end. So, when we could be like this, I mean, I feel close with you right now. I feel like there's no delay, like we can talk. And so, and I give actors more chances from a broader range. I can cast anywhere. I've got a spotlight account in the UK. I can do that. I can't do that in the room. And I know that some actors, not all, they miss being in the room.
Yeah.
But this is what I have to tell you. And I've said it a lot. But when I was in the room, I'd have an assistant, a camera person, a lot of technology, lights, making sure that everything is working and uploading, and my client's sitting there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 2 clients. So there's a lot that I'm in charge of. You think I'm paying attention to your audition and giving you feedback? The short answer is maybe 1% of the time. So, but it was taped and it went to my client, and, and I could look at it later. But, depending on the time frame, I just give them all of them, right? Because they're sitting there, or briefly, go over it. But if you're sending me a self-tape, I'm watching those front to back. I'm watching your slates, because I tell you to do all the things so I know that you're right for the part, right? So don't miss out on all those little details that I ask you to do. The silly things, they're not silly. Don't think about it. Just do it. And those are important things. Like, even if I say it's local and you're not exactly local, just be honest. Maybe I can find some money. Right. So there. And then I'm able to fall in love with you. Right. I'm able to focus, see you, not have the cameraman, the assistant, the kids outside screaming, me thinking how many people are going to want to shake my hand and I'm going to get the flu and I can't work tomorrow. I've always been that way. So yeah, I don't miss it, and I appreciate that you guys miss it. And I will redirect. If I see something in you, I have redirected 4 or 5 times on a self-tape, on the first read. Now I want it this way. I just get the agent to send a message. They send it. Maybe a little more this way. Send me a couple takes. Even if it's not said there, which mine always says that. But for me, always send them on.
I think it comes down to the point where actors have to get used to self-direction to an extent. You have to take what's given to you in the description and then be confident with that you're landing somewhere in the ballpark with what you're given. And then you'll get the call back, or you'll get a redirect, wherever the case may be.
Use a coach. Like if you have a coach that you trust, you should do that before you go in the room anyway. So it's getting feedback in the room in some ways is so inconsequential. It's like, and my clients, 90% of the time, they're looking at their phones or computers. You guys have glamorized this being in the room as something that was so romantic. And I don't think it was. I just don't. I think we have to, once again, put some reality on it. And no, I don't expect you to be Spielberg. I expect you to get some decent light on. And if I can hear you and see you, I don't care, no wipes. Don't edit it. Don't do a whole lot of fades and swipes. And
Yeah, I recently turned down an audition in New York where it was 4 setups. I went, thank you, but no. It's got to be more simple than that. And I think casting has to persuade or tell the client, look, we can't ask the actors to be Tarantino or Scorsese in an initial audition, for crying out loud.
Here's a dirty little thing about casting. We don't have a whole lot of training.
Ooh.
No, but think about it.
That's gold. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's on the job training. There is, there may be a class in film school about casting. But I don't think it's about how to cast. I think it's about how to get your cast, maybe. I don't know. I know that Russell is teaching at Chapman, and he does some kind of a casting course. So there are a few, very few. And the CSA does a little internship. That's 10 people a year, maybe. So we're a tiny group of people worldwide, less than 3,000 worldwide.
Wow. It's more about being like an investigator, right? Like a sleuth.
Literally every aspect of the job you have to figure out. And it's different for each client, like many jobs. We're all freelancers. We figure it out as we go along. And if you can't, then you got to get out. But yeah, no, I don't think you can get internships, that's your training. But you ask any of us, what's your training? I don't know. I figured it out, opened up shop. I trained under this person. I have some great interns out there that have done well.
It seems that people fall into this role. One way or another.
That is a term that a lot of people like to use. I'd like to think that nobody falls into anything. I think you orchestrate and you work and you build, and somehow it integrates into your life.
There just wasn't when you were an undergrad going into college, there wasn't a casting director.
No, I got a media mass comm degree.
MFA.
Right. And I went out and I was an editor, a fashion editor, and so I had models and I had, all the things. And I think, like all aspects of production, models, locations, I did makeup, everything but the shooting. And so I learned a lot. And, and then I moved to advertising, and then I moved to casting because I knew talent, and it seemed, to laser it.
I was just going to say, between fashion editing and then you moved into commercial styling, are there parallels between fashion editing, commercial styling, and casting?
Well, sure. I think, I will say the editing now I use as a podcaster, in terms of, the writing and so forth. But I think talent is talent, right? Ever since the beginning of my career, I have, and I still do, walk up to strangers and say, you should be a model.
Wow.
Why not?
So you keep that myth perpetuated of people being found on the street.
I do.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, I'm particularly children, because people don't know, and it's like, here, call this agent. I've done it. Many, many, many times. And, I don't know if they follow through or not. Doesn't matter. I made their day. That's great. And
I find it charming. I find it really charming, and you perpetuate that myth. And I think it's cute, and it keeps that fairy dust, if you will, alive.
That's the company motto. We keep spreading the sparkle.
Gorgeous. This is great already. I'm loving your mindset. I'm loving your philosophy. I also read on your website that you are known as a person who will turn over every rock to find the right person for the job. That being said, was there ever, can you tell me a story of when you had to go to the ends of the earth to find the right talent? Or was there ever a time where finding the right person seemed impossible?
Always.
Always.
I mean, just 2 weeks ago, I had to find a piano player of a certain age that could play, take me out to the ball game for an aviation gin ad. I mean, it's out, so I can say it. And overnight, like literally, I think they gave it to me. Maybe, I mean, and this was a non-union thing, so I could do it. I would never, and I try and give as much, but literally, they gave me less than 24 to find the person and have them self-tape on playing piano. But most piano players have a piano, and just do it. And I mean, and I didn't, I generally use talent agents, and I put it out to all the agents, also put it out on the public board. And then and there's filters in there. This is great if you have actors that are listening, because I filtered what I needed within casting networks. And bada bing, bada bang. There she was. And she was real obvious, I mean, I certainly gave them other choices, but I top loaded her.
Interesting. So this is just a reminder to actors, fill out your special skills on casting networks and Actors Access for sure.
All the places where, I mean, so, backstage is, New York cast. There's so many casting softwares. If it's free, fill it out, do it. Don't get scammed. Don't pay for things. You can pay for some of these softwares once they're getting work for you. That's what I think.
So the client gave you 24 hours. Do you push back, or do you just say okay?
I always push back. I really wrangle my clients as best as I can. But when they are on their way, and this is they have everything set except for that one piece, the talent. And there's another star already set, and they're going to be the, it's like nothing else I can do. There's nothing to push back. If they give me 15 pages and it's a non-union thing, I'm going to say, let's narrow that down. What do we really need to see? Once again, I'm in Florida, and I use self-tapes very early on. You know why? Golfers, paddle boarders, these kinds of things were the greatest thing, right? Yeah, see, but scratch golfers. So if you're a scratch golfer, then we're talking. But
I'm an 8 handicap. I'm in the Northeast. It gets cold up here.
Yeah, exactly. But but that's, and I have, in terms of scouring for that, to find scratch golfers that look like you, I'm going to remember this. But and, like I had to do a Ford commercial from, that was years ago, airing in Saudi Arabia. And this is before the internet. And I had to go to the Syrian Lebanese Society to go look at people. The Jew.
Man, I want to dig into that. Wow. The Syrian Lebanese Society?
They were lovely. But, and I have done unscripted TV. And I've had to go to the bars.
That could be fun.
I mean,
Where else have you been, Rose? Come on.
I mean, till like 4 a.m. or whatever, like going from one to I remember this one bar that I'd go, like every level of it was like a different experience.
Okay. There were levels to the bar.
Right. I think they call it. And then, you got to the top, and this bartender gave me a shot of Jägermeister.
And?
Now I think I was tripping. I literally hadn't drank all night, and it was probably 3 or 4 in the morning. And she's like, here. And I'm like, okay.
Hope you don't have to add anything to Jaeger. Jaeger's good on its own.
That was the first decision of my life.
You mentioned the G word. I had the best commercial gig of my career 2 years ago in West Palm. I got cast in a global TaylorMade golf ad with
I've done
5 of the top golfers in the world.
Isn't that fun?
Oh, Rose, I'm still high off of it. I'm still high.
Yeah, I'm still high off the Jaeger, so I got.
They needed one individual in the whole country, and they picked me.
See, Isn't that the coolest?
I felt like I won the lottery, and I'm sitting there hitting golf shots with the number one golfer in the world over my shoulder looking at me.
So fun.
Like, how the hell did I end up here?
I know. I know.
I finished the scenes on, it was 2 days at the end of the first day. I finished my scenes, and then I'm at lunch, and I just started crying at lunch.
Right? Yes.
And you're like, "You okay?" I'm like,
waited.
"I'm better than okay."
Yeah.
This is what elation looks like.
That's it.
I was just so grateful for the
that's
opportunity.
We put people in these fairy tale situations, you know, and also in the worst situations of their lives.
Yeah, it cuts both ways, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, not in, once again, I really, in terms of wrangling clients, I make sure that the client will take care of the talent, right? Even if you're underpaying them, which hopefully they're not, but at least, like, are we feeding them? Are we, what's happening here? Are they, can we get them a room, if we're starting at, crack of dawn and they have 3-hour drive, little things that are not that little that will give the client a better experience for the actor, right? Because I don't want you sleeping in your car. But I know what you guys do. It's nuts.
It is nuts.
Living out of the car. I've seen the cars. I've seen the car.
And note to clients, the little things go a long way.
They do.
Food number one, a decent call time number two. And
I don't think they can do that. I think if they need a sun up, they need a sun up. Yeah.
But just trying to keep the less turbulent the experience, the better, and then we can be better for you. And we wouldn't want to start off, being grumpy and pissy and on the wrong foot from the start because we're being underpaid. There's no breakfast or whatever. There's no chair to sit on, for God's sake. A chair. That's another thing. A freaking chair.
Isn't that
crazy? When I get to location, when you're standing there in the corner trying to make some sense, and there's nowhere to sit, and no one's even picking up on the fact that you look awkward as all hell. Like where do I sit? I've said that to PAs. It's crazy.
It's crazy. What's your worst experience on set? You don't have to name the client. I certainly wouldn't.
A few years back, I booked a commercial for a major company up in New York, and it involved a tennis star. But we were in the dark the entire time about what the scope of the commercial was. We were just told to be at this midtown hotel, very posh, looking very, very nice. So I wore my best suit and got there, and we rehearsed it for a couple hours, and we were told this is for X client and X sports star is going to be here. And we all got excited. And I was one of maybe 6 very, very featured background, and we were filming in a penthouse on the 70th floor of this hotel. Long story short, they used 5 of the 6. I was not used. I spent 7 hours in a hotel room on a lower floor, not even being able to look out onto Midtown Manhattan because it was a very dreary day. It was nothing but cloud cover. And then I was released, and the whole way out from the hotel to the subway, it was downpouring, and I wrecked my suit. I did not have an umbrella.
Oh,
I think I made $300 that day.
Yeah, didn't cover the suit, I bet.
it was brutal. It's like, why did I get out of bed today? So that one climbed the charts in all the wrong ways.
Yeah, that happens.
It happens.
Yeah, it's rough. I don't know if they're creating as they go along or what. You'd think there'd be more.
It seems that way. It seems that way. It seems like they're writing it as we're there. Yeah, you can feel sometimes the tension between a client and a director, and going, well, we talked about this. Well, what about that? And when they start, you could tell when they start rewriting on a set, you could feel that tension, and it makes me appreciate when the ducks are in a row, and it's like, this is our plan. We're going to execute it.
Right. I love that.
Not to say to be inflexible, but to know what your plan is and to have it been thought out and let it happen.
Those are my favorite clients, when they could just show up and say, I'm gonna use your talent for this long, and they come pretty close to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't have to be exact, but pretty close is good.
So being in Florida, are you busier in, say, the wintertime? Are there specific jobs that come to you at certain times of the year because of your location?
Yeah, I would say for sure. Like I always say the commercials are what pays my bills and the films are just my passion, I mean, I still get paid. I don't do really any jobs like that for free. But they don't pay like the commercials. So, and the commercials do come in the winter more. But this winter, I mean, it's been slow all the way around. You could blame whatever you want on that. You can't blame the weather in Florida. Or maybe you can. Maybe they got scared because we had a couple of hurricanes. People get scared of the look after a hurricane and don't realize that the news shows a smaller section than you might realize, right? I mean, it's a horrible devastation, no question. But there's, in general, still good thing. I mean, I wouldn't, shoot something in Tropicana Field right now.
The one place where there's obliteration and you just assume that the whole state is that way. And that's
Feel
not
like,
the case,
yes,
right?
exactly. And, so it's a real hard PR thing to work against.
Well, you mentioned the lack of the slowdown in work, and you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation about having an account in the UK. That brings me to the whole topic of regional markets. It seems like they're really dissolving if they're not gone already. It seems to me like it's more of a national market. It's an international market. I talked to a casting director in Philadelphia recently who's just said, I'm casting everywhere. I'm casting globally. And I'm seeing more and more actors willing to work as local hires in places where they're nowhere near local to the job. So would you agree that it's less about regional markets now and it's more national even when it comes to commercials, or does it depend on the job?
So it depends on the job, depends on the casting director, depends on a lot of things. I've been working nationally for a long time and internationally, but I'm certainly not bringing someone from the UK for a commercial over here without paying their fare. You, and when I ask for local hire, I can't, I mean, and for $300 a day or something, it's like, let's put some reality on this. Aren't you guys in business? I mean, I get this is a little short film and I did my best to get you $300 a day, which is above the SAG rate for a little film like that, right? So, like a non-union, like it's an unlivable rate. And so if you're coming in from out of the market, yeah.
I guess it depends on the gig. It depends on what it is, how much it's paying.
Right. And of course people do this with union gigs, and I advise strongly to not do that because local is local. It's in the contracts. So if whatever you're doing to fake being a local, I don't know. I've heard a lot of a variety of fines that have been had. I've never experienced that, but I have friends who substantial fines years later. So I don't think it's the best thing if you're a member of the union. If it's a union job, I mean, respect whatever parameters are around you. I think that's professional and that's what people should do, and if it's non-union, and also just be honest, like say, no, I'm 500 miles away from there, but I'm willing to do this. And that way, like if they're getting on a plane and they're landing the morning of the shoot, feels problematic, doesn't it?
It does. It's interesting you bring that up because like some people are going to do that. I've heard situations of actors flying cross country just for a callback, for a one-line co-star. And I've heard now in certain representatives in Atlanta are saying, oh, can you work as an Atlanta local? And they'll say yes. Like, great. Can I have an address? So you can only get burned so many times is my point.
I just want the truth. Honestly, if you're coming into my audition, just give me the truth and I will do my best to help you to get the job. If you're right for the job, I will say, listen, this person, needs some gas money, or, can we help them with their airfare? Can we give them a hotel? So you at least come in the night before. If you're going to pay for your airfare, fine, come in the night before and let me give you a hotel room. Let me talk to my client about that. That's what we're here for.
It just creates a lot less headaches for everybody involved.
No, absolutely.
It's like, how do we get to Florida? You know, there's many, many ways. But when it comes to the states, as far as incentives go, I just know that recently New York expanded their credit to $800 million annually with a $100 million earmark just for independent productions, which is kind of interesting and cool. I know that California is trying to get a 35% tax incentive going. Whether that happens or not is anyone's guess. And whether that's enough to keep Hollywood in Hollywood, again, is a big question. Knowing all that, what's the state of the industry in Florida as far as it relates to TV and film?
I mean, listen, we were one of the pioneers of the incentive game. That we've done it many different ways under many different political administrations. And what has happened, like we had maybe close to 300 million many years ago, which would have been right about that 800 million today. You know, a little movie called Dolphin Tale came in and pretty much took most of the money, right? So it really great. 800 million sounds like a lot of money. I like a 30% rebate that, you know, Georgia does. That makes more sense. And a lot of other states do that now. I do a lot of movies in Albuquerque and Kentucky. You know, it's a moving target, the incentive thing. So, but here's the rub. Europe is taking everything. I have a friend, Lucy Lennox, in Barcelona. I go to her place and she's bustling. She's got, staff. She's working all the time. And, they have a 50% incentive. Yeah, come up with that. So it's really hard to work against. Rob Lowe was filming his game show, The Floor, in Ireland because of the incentives. This is our industry. It has been for a long time. The studios, I think, just ate it a lot of the time because it's like, well, I want to work at home. And these were executives that didn't feel like going to Ireland, but now it's compelling and everybody's looking at the dollar or the euro or whatever and how, it's a business. I don't blame them. I absolutely don't blame them.
I can't. And I remember that podcast, Rob said that it's cheaper to fly 100 people to Ireland than it is to have them walk across the Fox lot.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. And he's saying that as a producer, of course, but and I understand it. I get it. And you said 50% in Spain. I know UK is the hot spot right now to shoot.
I think it's all about it. Don't quote me, but they're busy. They're real busy. My buddies over there are busy. And then also when it comes to like regional, like it used to be like a film would originate in Los Angeles and then they'd hire a local casting director to help them out. They don't do that anymore.
Okay.
They have the continuity of the same casting director from LA or wherever the director's used to them. They can go in and do it remotely, just like I do my job. And what do they need with local? Maybe the local person has, certainly for background, that I don't even understand that. But for anything above background, you could be anywhere and do it. We all do it. So that's the problem your friend in Philly is having. So she was used to getting that business, and now it's originating and staying with the first, or the LA casting director can hire somebody in Los Angeles, an associate, to take care of it wherever the movie's being shot. So
with these aggressive international incentives, do we need that federal tax incentive now just to compete?
I don't know. I think what people don't look at is how is that bill written? Let me hear the details of that. Because if you can write a bill that gives most of the incentive money to one project, what have you really done? Granted, in Florida, that project gave back up billions over time, in tourist revenue. And that's what all of the states, that's why they have incentives, because people go where they see films shot. They love it. So, yeah, you get your money back. Federally, I don't know. I want to see how everything is written before I would say this is good or this is bad.
Yeah, it's not going to be that cut and dry based on a headline, right? There's a lot of picadillos that have to be picked over.
Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be big.
I think that's what the studio and the union letter was to the administration recently. It was just like, hey, like, we see what you're doing. We appreciate you putting this in the spotlight, but hey, here's a blueprint. We're trying to help you help us.
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Don't destroy us in the process.
Right. It's just more of a grandiose, there's, broad paint strokes.
But that's what's so tenuous right now about all this. It's like, man, this could really change the game, or it can decimate the industry,
Easily.
Which is already so fragile.
Yes. But here you are, you're doing a podcast, I think it is time for the creator economy to rise up. And I think people seem to want to see the content that is not big budget, not from the studios. I think they love to watch. People sit around just watching YouTube in the evening instead of watching a movie or a TV show. They're watching, well, it could be some TV shows on YouTube, but they could be 30 years old. But whatever,
that's what I'm doing. I'm doing it. I find myself unconsciously turning on YouTube through my TV. I'm watching it through the television now. That's become my entertainment source.
And you're sitting there scrolling Instagram while you're watching YouTube. So why would the studios think that what they're doing right now is a good bit? Why am I rushing to be in the studio system when I'm better off being an independent filmmaker or an independent content maker or an independent anything? Isn't that what we've always wanted anyway?
It's a question of like, it's so specific now. The tastes have been so specific and niche that you just can't have. It's hard to create one particular show like a Seinfeld or a Friends or what have you, and say, "Hey, watch this on our network at 8 p.m. Tuesday nights."
No, because
it's not that way anymore.
Nope, it is not, and it will never be. The closest you have to that is Instagram. It's the current communal experience.
So it sounds like it's micro niche entertainment, and we have to find a way to wrap commerce around that.
Yeah, I mean, you pull in what you want, not what they want to feed you. I mean, you could argue that on all sides, of course, about algorithms and things like that. But no matter what that algorithm is doing to the creator, for the person experiencing the content, you are creating what you're seeing. If you don't even have to take any time at it. If you look at something, you're going to get another thing that's similar. If you linger for 2 seconds, you're going to get the next thing is going to be similar, and it's going to keep going like that. And there's nothing you can do about that. But isn't that what you want?
Yeah. I was looking for golf belts on Instagram the other night. I clicked on an ad and bang, I got 30 ads, a minute later.
And open your Facebook. You got more there. Not that you have a Facebook, but if you did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it really trains your brain to be careful what you click on.
Or not.
Depends on what you want. If you want to be deluged with whatever, then tap away.
Yeah.
But speaking of content creation, has that seeped into your traditional casting? Do you find that clients are looking for content creators for gigs, or is it still run-of-the-mill actors?
For the most part, I'm still looking for actors for parts.
It's a good thing.
And for the most part, I have been asked to look for their follower counts and things like that. I know that that's not true of everybody. But the type of work I've done, we're looking for actors and, or a certain type of look or, that kind of thing. But content creators, I think it's a whole different thing to do, to leap from Instagram to being an actor. I think there's a lot in between there that Instagram creators don't know or understand. So for me, it is best to stay away from them unless I need a content creator for some reason.
Because I know we're in an age where we actors just can't be actors anymore. We have to be our little pseudo production hubs with self tapes, and we have to self direct. And on top of that, now in some circles, depending on who you listen to, we have to have our built in audience with high follower counts on our social medias. I mean, I personally don't want to buy into that. I hope that doesn't become normal. Do you think would you agree that that's the case? That let actors be actors and not have a built-in audience for their stuff?
I think if you're an actor right now, you're foolish to not build your audience on your own, on your Instagram, and to have that. And here's the thing. You can have an Instagram that is you doing practice stuff, not stuff that hasn't been released that you're doing self-tapes. I'm not suggesting that. But just, whatever you want to practice online, you've got an audience. I don't know why people, I don't know why actors don't use it more. Write some lines, practice it on your Instagram. Ask your audience to rate your performance, to give you feedback. They may be as good as I am.
I think it's interesting for actors because we're trained to take direction, and we're trained to see ourselves in a polished, finished light in the scope of a project. To be raw, I think, at least for me, speaking for myself, it feels kind of vulnerable and unsure to just be, hey, here's me walking down the street. I had this thought. What do you think? You know what I mean? Like, some people can do that. For me, I'm getting over having to put myself out there with the gloss, if that makes any sense.
Well, I mean, that's all we look for now. The 99% of the feedback, more authentic, more raw, more, can I just see you? Every time they come in with this grandiose thought, it's usually a lot too much. Not a little too much. It's a lot too much. It's just, I just need it smaller and more intimate, right? Just little things.
We feel like we have to do more, and that's not always the case.
I don't think it is. Yeah. I think just tiny, and and oh my God, when we were in the room and I'd give feedback, the adjustment would be so much more than I wanted. Give me a little more. Wow, is this what you want?
This isn't Broadway.
Yeah,
there's a camera
it's
here.
Not what I wanted, but that's what I got.
Okay. Jazz hands.
I know, right?
That was the adjustment? No.
It's just, people don't, if you're not trained, they do so much more with their moments than are needed on the screen. And screens get smaller and smaller, oddly. Sure, you might watch YouTube on your 75, 85-inch TV, but most people are watching it on their 4-inch phone, right? So, I mean, that's tight. That's like, if you start to...
Yeah, the dance space is this wide.
It's just, like, keep it tight, and keep it small, and don't disturb me, because that's a lot. And I'm sorry to your listeners for getting in and yelling, because...
No, we want it. Any constructive criticism, anything coming from anyone like you is gold to us, and it's much appreciated. And along those lines, I just hope that ChatGPT is wrong when it recently told me we have 3 to 5 years left of screen actor viability. So I want to talk, obviously, about my two least favorite letters, AI. I've seen what's out there. I've seen what's coming. I've seen human avatars that look very, very human, to the point where I couldn't even tell the difference. Do you think that we're heading to an existential crisis point for actors as far as it relates to the screen, because the technology is going to be just too easy to use, that we just don't want to pay humans anymore?
The truth is, I don't know any better than you do. But I will tell you that back in the day, we used to actually put actors in the stands for a stadium scene. Can you get 10,000 people? I never said yes to anything like that.
A lot of paperwork there, Rose.
Paperwork, that's a lot to do.
I lost my voucher.
Can you imagine? Hats off to those people that make that happen. But yeah, so we used to put real people there, right? 10,000 in a day. Okay. And then CGI came. So you could put X amount of people in and they'd kind of recreate the rest, right? I mean, you think of your early films, Days of Thunder, but earlier, 10 Commandments. There were some scenes in there with how many actors, right? Anyway, so those were all real. Now they get to be more and more computerized. So yeah, of course it was going to come for the stars eventually. They're not there yet. They're much more robotic than, people see it. Could it happen? I'm sure it could. I'm sure, and it already has. There's no question. Once again, that brings you around to make your own stuff. People are willing to watch what isn't that. They want that authenticity. But that doesn't mean the studios are going to go that route, right? They're going to still stay with the bigger business, whatever the big business picture is. That's what they're going, they're going to figure it out in their way. And actors and creators have to figure out in our way. And what happens, happens. But at least you've taken a little bit of control over the situation, right?
You can. Yeah, we could certainly create our own content. I'm just concerned, not necessarily from the pinnacle point of the industry as it relates to $200 million films and TV series, but the commercials, the industrials. And I've heard the prognosis for live action stuff isn't so good for that in the years to come, where it's just going to be too easy to text prompt whatever product in the hand of whatever avatar we want to create, and we can split that hair multiple ways. And I think maybe once clients get a taste of that, maybe there's no turning back. I'm not sure, but I've seen, like I said, it's not there yet, but what I have seen in terms of AI recreating products, damn, it's impressive.
I know.
And to the point where you really can't tell anymore. Not so much with humans, but with products, yeah, it's pretty much there.
Right.
So I'm so curious to see how this plays out.
I mean,
for the commercial
Jetsons,
world.
There's a lot of movies that foretold this.
Yeah.
These shows. Terminator, I don't know. That seems bleak.
Yeah. It's the last thing I want going down the street. But hey,
right?
Supposedly they're working on soldiers. Yeah.
I mean, you're using ChatGPT to help you. You don't deny it. I am too. And I'm not going to be, in the shadows saying I'm not talking about that. No, I absolutely use it. I think it's interesting. And I think you can learn a lot and you can teach it how to help you. And isn't that what all of mechanism is, right? The Model T, whatever. We didn't have cars back at,
There's nothing better than the horse and buggy. I'll show you.
Right. Industrialization, it doesn't stop because we already have a car. We're going to make some flying cars. They were testing them here just the other day.
Wow.
Exactly. It's going to happen. It all happens. Now we have electric cars. I mean,
It seems to me the hope is we have to relegate this as a tool. It's going to be the best tool yet in humanity. But if we let it take over the creative, then that wipes out our business as we know it. Is that safe to say?
No, I don't think that's safe to say. I don't think, I think we're creatives. We rise up. I think we figure out other ways to be creative. I think you gotta learn stuff, and you're smart. You're going on ChatGPT learning stuff. Recreate yourself, but don't stop. Things certainly will change. That's a given. But how you deal with that? I mean, the wheel was the most important invention for a long time. Is it still? I guess not.
Everything has its time.
Everything has its time. So and I think at this moment in time, we can learn from history on many things. Keep up to date on all your things. Keep up to date on your history and politics. It will help you understand today. Keep up to date on it. It will help you with if you invest in the stock market, look at history. If you're working in any sector, not just acting, look at history, right? It all has, it's all meaningful to all of us, I think.
Absolutely, for sure. And you mentioned earlier films, some early, some not so early, some ancient. But I would be remiss if I didn't, cap off this conversation with asking you about a story that I'm sure you've told 1,000 times. But please regale us with the experience of working on Edward Scissorhands and with Tim Burton.
Oh my God. So we've talked about how hot Florida is. But we were all so hot. I mean, they brought in outdoor air conditioners, and poor Johnny was in that suit. And I mean, it wasn't just Johnny and Tim. It was Alan Arkin. It was Anthony Michael Hall. It was Diane Wiest. It was, oh, I can't think of all the names, but Susan Blumhardt, who's in The Blacklist. She was Mr. Kaplan. Anyway, yeah, so I mean, such a great group of actors and creatives, and I was 200 months pregnant through the whole shoot, and it was one of those shoots where I had to go every day, at least twice a day, and it was probably 45 minutes from the house, and so I kind of just remember it being hot, and I was huge, and I never told anybody because back in the day, probably even now, nobody's going to hire a pregnant woman to do on set work for 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
Right? So yeah, and I just got bigger and never really talked about it. And we wrapped and then I had a baby. But I mean, Tim is such a unique human. He's just like, he's so creative and so sheltered in his mind, right? I would call him a sheltered person, but he was so busy in his mind. It was fascinating to watch him. And Johnny was always very similar. I mean, we'd sit around and talk a bit with either one of them, honestly. Creatives like nobody, right? Just like, and I remember Anthony Michael Hall was there, and he had just come off a bad spell, if you will, from the Brat Pack days. And he I'll never forget what he said. And it's said everywhere. It's like, it's you meet the same people on the way up as you do on the way down. So be nice to all of them.
Good advice. I like that.
It really is. It is. And yeah, good guy. And and Alan Arkin, I would spend hours with him in his trailer and, talking about all kinds of, he was the greatest guy. Greatest.
Awesome. God,
yeah.
It blows my mind to see a career like Johnny's, to see how he just doesn't seem to be typecasted.
Did you?
How does an actor achieve that?
Did you see what he's working on now? Have you seen his look? Can't remember the name of the project, but you could Google it. He looks like a businessman with gray hair.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. A 60-year-old businessman. I think Johnny's got to be 60. I don't know what that character is, but the look was, approaching, with glasses, approaching Clooney. Not quite that polished, but yeah, it was just like, yeah, good on you.
Yeah. I mean, Willy Wonka, a mob boss, crybaby. It just, you can't pin him down. I think you can kind of add Michael Keaton to that too. I'm fascinated how, is it the actors directing their careers and their arcs this way? Is it luck? Is it knowing the right people who make the decisions? Usually you just see any actor or actress kind of be in their lane and that's their bread and butter, but not an actor like Johnny.
I think it's talent. I think we see that, right? So here you are in the room with whatever casting director that cast Who's Eating Gilbert Grape. She saw him. And I don't know if he did more before then, but that was pretty young. From then, other people see him because that was right there on the screen. And then, a weird turn to 21 Jump Street. So you could see regular guy and you could see Gilbert Grape guy, which is, unique character. And you're like, look at him. He can act.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that hard to do what we do. So I think they're both obviously in the same guy. So then it's easy to bring him in and say, let me see what you could do with this. And so it has nothing to do with luck. Absolutely zero. It has to do with skill and talent showing up a little bit of professionalism. But the talent is the biggest. It's there. It's there. It's not. It's so obvious. Sit around with me and watch a couple hundred tapes. You tell me who the person is. We're going to agree.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it begins in the tape. It begins in making that impression.
It's easy.
And you go from there, right?
Right. That's the easiest part of my job, is figuring out who the right one is. The hardest part is getting the right ones in the room, right? Putting that together. That's hard. And getting people's schedules, all the weird little details. That's more difficult than actually picking the person. I promise you, you can do it.
So the secretarial part of the job is something you just have to take on in addition to the fun part.
I mean, I think bringing the right people in the room is more than secretarial. I think it's our creativity.
Yes.
Right?
The scheduling, getting all that done. Yeah.
Yes. It's just, or it's not even the scheduling for the casting. It's the scheduling for the shoot. How many avail calls do I make in order to cast a film? Even if I have absolutely no auditions, because these are offer-only actors. So I'm just making avail calls and pushing around a bunch of papers. Is that creative? I don't know. I think making the list may be creative. Make a lot of lists.
It's got to be finding the right actor that's just perfect for the project that no one thought of.
Right.
And you go, yeah, like I did it.
Exactly.
That's cool.
All we want is a little thanks. We're getting our first Oscar this year.
Yeah. Congrats.
We're in the program now. But, sadly, the world doesn't know, because we have bad PR because we're casting directors. And I don't know.
But you've gotten there. I know it was a long climb, but just, as you should be there.
Over 20 years of asking the Academy for an Oscar for casting. I know the people behind the ask, and it's crazy. We put the money on the screen, right? The actors are the most bang for your buck, even though they cost you the most. They're the ones who bring it, put the people in the seats. It's not the location.
It takes a minute for sure, doesn't it, to be recognized?
Yeah, apparently.
Apparently, indeed. So, God, I really appreciated the candor in this conversation. I would love to have you back. But between all the experiences you've had working with Tim Burton, Johnny, hundreds and hundreds of projects, the Jägermeister, when you take it all into account, I appreciate that reveal, by the way. I'd like to...
never before on air.
We're making ourselves relatable to everybody, and I love it. It's what we need to be. I like to end with pearls of wisdom, Rose. So if you could think into all of your experiences, what's one or two gems that guide you in daily life?
The number one is live each day as if it's your last. I, as many people, have experienced a tremendous amount of loss. And what I know is, if I'm not tidy with everybody every day, that I don't feel good if I don't see them the next day. So you end our conversation, we're going to be right. We're going to be good. We're going to be excellent. I can be angry at you. I have no problem being angry at people. But we're going to be right? Wherever that is. Yeah. Cause you just don't know. Life is so tenuous. You just don't know what's going to happen next. And honestly, I do that in a positive way. Not really a negative, right? It's like, I feel I could wake up every day, and it's liberating to me to know that I'm tidy with people, So that is my number one thing. And of course, always show up early, be professional. These are things I live by. I expect everybody around me to live by, and don't be an asshole.
Bumper sticker philosophy. I love it.
Right?
Right to the point. Yeah.
Yeah. Show up, be professional. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah. Just do the little things right.
Yeah. Be kind. Just, I've gotten so far with being kind, I think, and hearing people. And, I want people to hear me. So I think life is a give and take. So anyway, probably more than you wanted to hear, but.
No. I appreciate it. And in a world where so much of us are trying to be right, it's nice to be reminded of kindness is better than
Yeah.
what you think is correct in this world. So kindness goes a long way.
Yeah. I don't know how many times a day I say, I don't know what I'm doing, but I mean, particularly in the podcast space, I'm like, but it's like my entire career. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to figure it out in very short order because there's a deliverable, and I will deliver it, and it will be shiny, sparkly.
That's what makes you so special, Rosen. I appreciate it. You find a way to get it done, even if you don't know how. And that's what, this business needs. That's what this world needs. And I appreciate your candor, your honesty, your time. And please come back and see us again. And in the meantime, check out Casting Confidential podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, please do. And hit a follow on Instagram for Casting Confidential. And I'm on casting on Instagram as Rosen Casting. So all those things, hit some follows, give me some reviews, and give Paul some reviews because we love those 5-star ratings and the reviews.
Thank you. It sounds better coming from you than from me.
Do it though. I mean, it's just you guys love listening to this. So write them a little review. And on Apple, because they give you space to write a review. And 5 stars. Don't forget the 5 stars. Don't do 4 stars. That's terrible.
Thank you, Rose. I appreciate your time. I'll talk to you soon.
Of course. Thank you. Thanks for having me.